What's up, guys? It's Damp. As promised, I told you we'd be coming out with more Darkest Dungeon videos this week, so here we are with the first one. I kind of struggled to make this video because I know you guys are asking for in-depth guides, but unfortunately the game right now is at a point where there's a lot of balancing that happens. For the first few weeks after a patch, they do balance quite a bit of the content, the bosses, the character classes, so there's so much going on. So basically what I'm going to run down for you, this is going to be an overview of the Flagellant, and once the game stabilizes, you'll see the majority of my content coming out. So to start, what I really wanted to break down are some of the strengths and weaknesses of the class, and just some overall recommendations on how to play it as far as a play style guide. And then I'll have an in-depth guide later on once all these, I need more time to test it, and then once all the balances take place. So overall, first of all, looking at the Flagellant, a couple things as far as strength. So he's going to have a lot of utility. So if you notice, he primarily, depending on even where you sit your abilities, he wants to be in the first two slots. So being in the first two slots does limit him on some of the effectiveness, but he does have great movement as well. So his utility is in his movement, and then also his ability to heal as well as deal a moderate amount of damage. He heals better than any other combative class, really outside of probably the Occultist until the Vestal. The game needed another healer, so that's another positive, as he's kind of fulfilling that role. He moves extremely well, like we've already covered. His bleeds are very, very strong from a base bleed chance percentage, as well as overall the amount of bleeding that happens turn to turn to turn. He also is really good at stress management, his own stress management. You can see here he minus 50 stress, plus 40 stress, depending on how you want to play it. But then we go to some of the drawbacks, and the biggest drawback is that he's a really complex character. So if you're a newer player, you probably want to stay away from him for now. The second thing is him being religious limits the fact that he won't play with the Abomination. That isn't a huge drawback, but it's enough that it can affect some of the ways that you're going to play him. His back row attacks, if you see right here, this back row attack here, it's pretty weak. So he can really only go to the third slot, and then has a third and fourth slot AoE. So he can't hit the fourth row. And he's limited, like we saw earlier. Really, these two positions are really the only ones that he can deal damage. I haven't done enough testing to really play around with how he's what slot he fits in best. I would probably think slot 2 currently is what I would recommend. I mean, some of the other minuses for him is that you can really only use him in some of the places where you can bleed, which I'll cover it in the end. Because if you can't bleed something, he can't really go there, which again limits his party assignments and the places that you can utilize him. So he's going to be tougher to level just because of that fact. He does not bring any provisions, unlike some of the other characters. They bring a shovel, anti-venom, bandages, things like that. He does not bring anything. His dodge is pretty much not there, and his overall damage is going to be somewhat low. So if you look at 3 to 6 in comparison to the same level, even if Vestal is 5 to 11, and I realize he has bleeds, excuse me, to offset that, but it's, in my opinion, it's not enough. So currently I have him, just without doing a ton of testing, ranked as in the bottom half of the character list, and usually you guys want to know where I have him. I do think he can be stronger, but based off his complexity and the fact that he only fits in certain zones, and really his limitation to not be able to hit the back row very strong, and then you have to hope that the back row is susceptible to bleed. So he's too situational right now for me to be able to rank him any higher than that, despite the fact that I do think that some of his strengths are very, very good. So in looking at how you want to play him, or really where you want to utilize him, so in my opinion, He can be really, really strong in the warrens and the weld primarily, and then also in the courtyard. I would probably recommend him first in the warrens and the weld. However, you got to remember, those are two of the more difficult zones in the game. So if you're a newer player and you're playing him just to play him and you're going to the weld, you can end up with tree branch one-shotting some of your guys. Or in the weld, in the warrens, you get a lot of diseases. Thankfully, he can cure, remove diseases himself, but that doesn't mean that that's going to offset the risk that the rest of your party's taking to get diseases in those particular zones. So that's just a quick overview. I apologize, it's not very much in depth versus what you guys are probably expecting for the first video, but I need to test it. We need to see some balancing. After this balancing goes into play, which they mention in today's patch notes, you guys will see a lot more content. If you want, you can check out some of my VODs. You can see me, fight crocs, see how much money I have. I've unlocked all the districts. So I am doing a lot more testing, and also you will see the strategy guide. I'm going to launch it today on Reddit. So you'll see it. I'll have some links up as soon as it posts to refer that to you. So I'm starting to work on some of that stuff too. So please be patient. It takes a long time, and I don't play the game 8 hours a day, so it takes a long time for me to get some of this stuff done. But I promise you, at the end, it will be worth it. So overall, that's all I have. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your patience on the new content, guys. See you later.